Welcome back to Inside Europe. We are in the heart of the European Parliament in Strasbourg, and joining me are three MEPs, Diane James, Stephen Woolfe and Bernd Kölmel. Now let's talk about the EU budget. Now, when Britain leaves the European Union, it takes with it £10.8 billion worth of contribution to the budget. That is something the EU is going to have to deal with. And perhaps, Bernd, if we start with you, how concerned is the EU about what it's going to do to sort of recoup its budget? It's £10.8 billion to find or to cut.
A wonderful question, and I'm a little bit surprised. I think the EU is not only concerned, it's a little bit confusion I see about this question. And for me it's clear this is not only a challenge, it's also a chance for us, a chance for finding a new way for the budget. We, the ECR group, are in favor for a small and efficient budget, and I think it is not a good idea to start with the point that we need someone else who has to pay for this whole. I think we should at first think, what can we do in the EU with the budget? What is creating value for the citizens, for our states, and what could we better do on the national or regional level? That's for me the very important question.
So that's small and efficient sounds like you are looking more towards the cuts end of it rather than increasing the contributions of the other nations.
Exactly.
So the question automatically then is, well, what's going to be on the chopping board in terms of where the money's going to come from?
Yes, but at first we have to decide in which areas we want to spend our money. Not at first to collect the money and then to think, okay, what can we do with the money? This is the wrong way. I think at first we should think in which areas can we create more value for the money. And I think at the moment we do a lot of politics in areas where the member states could be better use the money. And though I think we shouldn't collect money, we shouldn't ask for more money, we should reduce the competences from the EU in areas where we are not able to produce more value as when the
What's
member
an example
states
of that? Do you have an example of what you think that an area like that would be?
Yes, we can talk about the agriculture. In the whole area, we spend a lot of money in agriculture policy. And I think minimum the half of this could be spent from the member states. We don't need a regulation from Brussels to spend money for farmers in South Germany. This could be done from the regions or the government of Germany, but not from Brussels.
Okay, well, this of course comes from a reflection paper which was published by the European Commission called The Future Financing of the EU. It made no sort of qualms about the fact they are concerned about the impact of the withdrawal and the financial priorities that are going to come from that. Diane, cuts or increasing contribution to the budget?
Well, there was a very clear message last week from a German commissioner, Günther Oettinger, who indicated quite clearly that he was looking for cuts, particularly in the common agricultural policy area, and putting more onus, just as my colleague here has mentioned, on national governments to pick up the tab. Now, of course, that flies in the face of what President Macron wants in terms of France and the French farmers. I think I made this mention on social media. I can foresee the French agricultural sector going up in arms, you know, the usual tractors on the streets in Paris, blocking the autoroutes with, cattle excrement and everything, just to make their point. The EU has a very, very poor record of financial management and financial scrutiny anyway. And you referred to a figure of 10.6 billion, 10.8 billion. That is actually just peanuts compared to what the United Kingdom actually contributes. You talked only about the, if you like, the direct bill that we paid. Even what Günther was actually talking about last week was the recognition that the United Kingdom contributes a lot more. I think my bigger fear, though, is that some of the aspects that the EU has been bouncing around so far is, one, raised and increased taxation in certain areas, particularly on fuel, for instance, as in be it petrol and diesel, or we'll see more increases in terms of fines levied on member states for non-compliance. And that's their brilliant way that the EU has adopted over the years of filling the black holes that they develop.
But the reality is, as you very clearly outlined, there's going to be a huge rift if, for example, there's going to be cuts. You're going to have a number of politicians in this place who are going to be deeply unsettled by that, particularly if they're very keen on the European expansion as a project.
Yeah.
Alternatively, asking for increased contributions from countries is also going to have a big impact. I mean, Stephen, if I just come to you, Ireland's a very good example because there is concern that their low tax economy, which is of course a big aspect of their economy, could be on the chopping board if the EU looks to some form of cooperation on tax policy, particularly to corporations. And so Ireland could be in some trouble as well.
It's not in the historical instances of the European Union to be seen to be cutting any of its budgets. Year on year, you see people here arguing for cuts. And so their natural instinct is either to maintain and grow because that gives them influence as they see it across the globe. But I think there is a clear recognition that they need to make the cuts across it, but there are challenges. There are those like Verhofstadt that has said that instead of getting rid of the UK MEPs, that's redistributed, so there could be costs there. So therefore, when they're looking at how to redistribute this money, their view is we need to create more money, and that's why Ireland's going to be a problem.
Okay, well, let's just go around the table then. We've said what you would like to happen, what should happen, but in the reality of what's happening in places like Strasbourg, in Brussels as well, what do you predict? If you look into your ball, what do you predict is actually going to happen at the end? Is it going to be a increased contribution from nations, or is it going to be cuts? Perhaps, Bernd, if we start with you, what do you think is actually going to happen here?
I think we will see in the end a mixture of both. The majority parties, they don't want to blame the EU that the EU is not able to create solutions for this problem. And though we see, like in the Brexit, all start with very hard positions, but we will see in the next month it will get softer and softer. And though I think in the end we will get a mixture, but we will fight for a smaller budget. We see this very serious, and I think it is not a good idea to cover problems only with money. We need for a lot of areas politician solutions, and this is I'm missing, especially in the area of the migration crisis.
Okay. Stephen, quick thoughts? What's going to happen?
Like Diane said, I think they'll probably go for other sources of money, and I will move towards the idea they'll sing a single corporation tax and eventually move to an EU income tax.
Yeah,
Diane?
Absolutely. It's going to be tax raising powers, and until we got the clarity in terms of the German election outcome, probably nothing will happen for a couple of months. But then I think the remaining member states will all see an increased demand for their contribution, and of course there'll be the big Brexit bill which they'll want to levy on the United Kingdom.
Diane, Bernd, Stephen, thank you very much for coming on today.